Hello, welcome to Invisible Coding. Today I'm going to go over strings, variables, and the print function, as well as basic concatenation. This is going to be the first thing in my Let's Code series in Python. Let's go on with it. Anyways, there are multiple different types of variables in Python. There are three main ones you should know. That is a string, an integer, and a float. A string is just any variable that's enclosed inside quotation marks. These can be either single, double quotation marks like this, or they can be single quotation marks. It really doesn't matter. You can do whatever. An integer is any variable that's, well, it's not enclosed, it's just a number. And a floating point decimal, which is what we call a float, is just a number with a decimal place. That's going to be specific because you can add integers and floats together, but you can't classify a float as an integer. I don't know if that makes sense. I hope it does. But still. Alright, so firstly I'm going to give you an example of a string variable. This is gonna be a name. So I'm gonna do my name. Doesn't matter if you don't put capital letters or anything, just as long as it's inside quotation marks. Next I'll give you an example of an age. Gonna be my age, 18. That's an integer, reason being is it's a whole number, no decimal place whatsoever. So you can add these, subtract these, multiply these, wherever you want in a print function. It really doesn't matter. So a float is going to be, for instance, fav num, let's go 18.6. The only reason this is a float and this is a decimal is because that's got a decimal point. Even if I did that and did 0.0, that would still be a float, and that's an integer because this is a decimal place. All that requires it to be a float is a decimal place. Alright, so an input is just any variable which requires you to put an input in the console. So you'll do this by doing your input variable equals input brackets. The brackets is the place you put the prompt, so you can put anything there. So if we quickly run this to the console, we can just put hello. You can literally put anything there, no matter if it's a string, variable, string, integer, float, whatever you want. It's just going to go in there. If you want to narrow it down more, you can put input a number, and then if you run that, it'll put input a number and we'll just say 10. So you can do that wherever you want, pretty much, with inputs. I think they're a pretty handy way to get user response. It's just pretty much whatever you want to do with those. You can concatenate them on anything if they're a string. Yeah, if you want to concatenate an input, you'll need to get the data representation from it. A data representation is like what type of variable it is. Like I said earlier, like a string, an integer, float. It can be whatever you want, pretty much. So I'm going to get, when you concatenate something, mostly you'll do it inside another variable or a print function. Concatenation, all it is just the process of joining two strings together. So if we go print for the brackets, because this is where you put anything in the print function, I'll do name plus str. This will classify this input by here as a string, or whatever I want as a string, so I can concatenate it with something else. String, then imp var. Put the variable name in, so whatever input there, I'll concatenate it. Just to make sure it doesn't space, I'll put space at the end of the name. Input a number, 25, invisible 25. So it's a pretty handy way to just chuck things together to make sure that everything's outputted. This is the way in games how they will output your name on a character. So when you enter your name at the start of the game, it'll just store that as a variable, as a string. Then it'll output it whenever you ask for it in a game, or whenever the game asks for it, whenever you run something that says, well, hello, for instance, your name. Just any character interactions. Alright, so using the variable names, you can print out anything, pretty much. If you can do a print, like most people will start off with, hello world. All this will do is it'll just print the hello world to the console. After I do that, because I don't want to do that, I'll just put this as a comment for now. So that will just register that it just skips over it. So I'll just print hello world to the console. So it does. You can just do that and you can print quotes straight away out of a print function. That's fine. But for instance, let's say I wanted to print my name. If I had a really, really long name, I wouldn't want to type that all again, would I? So what I would do is I just put the variable name. What I can do is I can put the variable name inside the prompt, and I'll just print my name to the console, which I think is pretty handy. But I can also do this with age, with like integers, age, print age, and I can even do it with floats, which will come up as 18.6, which I think is a pretty cool way because you can just make everything faster. But let's try and concatenate the variable names, so name and age. That will come up with a traceback error. What that means is that these two different types of data types, you can only concatenate strings. So when you get an error, it'll tell you what the problem with it is. Things you can only concatenate strings or one data type. Well, not really. If there's two integers, then you can concatenate. It'll just add them together if you do this function. But I can't just do int brackets name. Reason being is that the word invisible doesn't hold any numerical value, therefore I can't add it together. But I can multiply it, even if it's a string. What I'll do is I'll use the multiplier variable, the asterisk, then I can do 4, asterisk 4, and it'll just print my name 4 times. The handy thing. But going back to earlier, if I was going to concatenate my name and my age, I would have to do str to classify the age as a string, and then I will do invisible 18, which is pretty handy because then you can just classify it. Alright, so last I'm going to get a string representation of a variable. I can get the string representation like I've done here in the actual print function, or I can make a variable with it in. So if I do name times age, well, if I do var equals name plus str age, that'll do the variable name. So I'll be doing my name, invisible plus the age. I won't have to go over this again. And then I can just go underneath it, immediately underneath it, print var, and that will immediately print that out. These are pretty handy methods of outputting data to the console using concatenation. Well, there are multiple ways of concatenating data types in Python, but this is like the most basic one that I know. I might go over it again in another video, possibly next video. But anyways, I hope this has been pretty good, helpful for you. If you want to like expand your thing, could try and make, for instance, something that outputs your name and your age, like I've done here. You don't have to share in the comments or anything, because that'd be a bit creepy. But still, if you want to have a go yourself, you try something along the lines of this, make sure it works. I hope you enjoyed and found this video helpful. Thanks for watching.